Hello, ModelHunt family. Welcome back. Today I have a very special guest, and today I have Laura Lajiness with us. First of all, I just want to say that Laura Lajiness went to the University of Arizona, so go Cats. So I'm super excited, and it's going to be a really fun interview. Laura Lajiness is a writer, editor, and stylist who covers fashion, accessories, and fine jewelry. She pens the occasional beauty conundrum, travel, and fitness essay too. Her work has been seen across various outlets, including Elle, Glamour, InStyle, the Zoe Report, Well and Good, The Editorialist, Women's Health, and many more. She previously held positions for the senior fashion editor at the Zoe Report and PopSugar. What made you realize that you wanted to work for a magazine and that you kind of wanted to go into the fashion and beauty industry?
It was sort of just that novelty and dream, like those things that you see, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and these sort of fictional scenarios of what a magazine looks like. So it was a combination of enjoying reading magazines just from an earlier age and getting caught up in that, and wondering what are the jobs that create this magazine and trying to explore that, and then coupling that with, I've seen these idealistic looking jobs to me where the idea of being a reporter at a newspaper was something I didn't necessarily like dream about. And
Yeah.
Being perhaps like an anchor or something, it was interesting to me, but it was never something I really saw myself doing.
So I have to ask, is working for all of these companies really like those movies, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or I don't know if you've seen The Bold Type. Have you seen
I
that?
haven't seen The Bold Type. I know what it is. I haven't watched it.
It's one of my favorite shows. It's really good.
I've heard really good things. I've seen clips and yeah. There's a little bit of truth in all of it. It absolutely stems off of reality, but it's all dramatized for sure.
Yeah.
Especially, like I said, now too, the way the industry has also shifted with the way even full-time roles are treated. There was this sort of like old guard way of operating when it was, the pinnacle of these magazine titles, and it was before digital, and it was just this hierarchy that was set, and you just did everything with your head down that you were told, and like that's still very much a thing, but now people are just so much more open to young creative minds sort of guiding them and telling them this is what's cool. And it's like TikTok is a really good example of that. How much TikTok content is out there now that wasn't there 6 months ago? And it's like these titles are also understanding that like these younger generations are their future customer and you need to cater to it. So I think it's all just sort of shifted and moved away from those like, yes, there are samples, but not everyone just gets to keep them and wear them all the time. It's like the samples are treated with care and respect, and they're not just being taken willy-nilly out of a fashion closet and worn to a gala. And I mean, there are always events which can be painted as very glamorous, but sometimes events can be a little grueling. A lot of brands, during Fashion Week or during what's referred to as market season, when you're previewing collections in advance, buyers are there buying what's going to sell in the stores, editors are previewing it to be able to write about it. It's a jam-packed schedule, and there can be 20 appointments in one day. So that's actually, you start your day out fresh and you're excited at your first couple of appointments, and then by the third one you're getting a little tired, and then you still have all this other work you really need to do once you get to your computer, which might not be until 4 p.m. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot more work that goes into fashion and beauty jobs specifically that I don't think is always accurately portrayed, but that stuff does all stem off of reality for sure.
You've written a lot of articles. How do you continually find your inspiration? Trends come and go, things are constantly shifting. What allows you to write different articles, but sometimes they're about the same thing, beauty products, same genre of things, but they're all a little bit different. So how do you gain inspiration to write those articles?
Well, a general excitement and interest just always keeps you going. So I think as a friend of mine, I tell her, you're the perfect consumer, because she she loves a new launch. She gets really excited about certain things. And so I think when you're just naturally that type of person, you're constantly seeking that stuff out anyway. So that's a great baseline. But I also go off of a lot of personal angles, being able to think about from a first person's perspective, what can I offer in a type of story, or how can I make a topic different by taking a first person angle?
Okay.
So it's like, rather than write about the 10 best spring dresses, it's like, what about this one dress I bought? I've already worn it 6 times. It is literally like
the best.
Amazing for this, this, and this. Let me take that angle instead. And also thinking of service, just for what's a new service you can provide. And what are people looking for now? What are people shopping for the summer that I can get ahead on and then get all their traffic to my site or my story? So it's thinking in those strategic ways too. And it just, I think for me, when you get in those brainstorm modes, it's like the ideas just keep flowing.
Fashion weeks are something that I've always looked forward to. The Met is something that every year I literally stake out on my couch for, with a bowl of popcorn and candy, and put on like a cute outfit and watch. And I was so upset this year when it was postponed. Other fashion weeks like Paris, Milan, and London have also recently announced that they're going to go digital. So what are your thoughts on this, first and foremost? And then how do you think that this is going to affect the industry in the way that fashion weeks are done in the future?
So there was already a big shift happening with Fashion Week in particular. There has been sort of this general sentiment, especially with New York Fashion Week, that New York Fashion Week is dead, New York Fashion Week is over, because so many of these big name brands are choosing to show in Europe, specifically in Paris. And New York Fashion Week is boring now. That was a thing that was already being said. So there was that sort of happening, and then brands who are choosing to just show in different ways. So I think obviously now that these fashion weeks are all going to be digital, some brands were already showing digital before. Some brands were already choosing to show off season or digitally, or not necessarily do a show, but do something that was just different and creative. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be exactly what brands are going to do, and they're going to see, you know, what other areas they haven't explored that they can explore to make their collection stand out, because it's not just a necessity, but it's also kind of a new, refreshing way to think creatively, I'm sure. Like, now that the panic is probably not so much panic, but it's more like accepting the reality of the situation and then just being creative about working your way through it. Mm-hmm. You know, Fashion Week is also, it's just really incredible for these brands still. It's a huge platform. It creates so much exposure, especially for emerging designers. Yeah. And I think by them changing to digital, it does make it a little bit more challenging for younger brands, because a part of Fashion Week that's not as generally known is there's all the shows and those big splashy shows that everyone is aware of, but there's also a ton of appointments.
Jumping to inclusivity and diversity, which is ModelHunt's standard, what do you think has made the biggest difference on diversity in the modeling industry or the fashion industry?
Well, it's definitely like the latter half of the 2010s was when a lot of these changes were really taking shape. A lot of the model, like Ashley Graham, Candace Huffing, like their careers were already started at that point, but that was a bigger turning point with transgender models like Halima Aden, I think is how you pronounce her name. She was the first hijab wearing model. So it's like those moments were really happening. And whether it was at Fashion Week where all of those models were walking down the runway, or whether it was in an ad campaign, or even as simply as e-commerce starting to shoot more curvy models and like age models too. Thinking about like fashion is not just for 20 somethings, you know, so it's inclusivity in all these different ways. It's not just race, but it's like, it's gender, it's age, it's all of these things.
You guys can follow Laura on her social media platforms, which will be linked below. Stay tuned for our upcoming episode of Blyssful with a psychologist who talks to us about the various concerns surrounding the coronavirus.